A lawyer is facing formal charges after he allegedly disclosed investigation results from his role as a special deputy Knox County attorney.
First Alert 6 Philip Katafamo tells us what charges he faces.
Tuesday, the Nebraska Supreme Court Counsel for Discipline filed disciplinary charges against Omaha lawyer David Begley, including violating the confidentiality of his client and misconduct. Now, documents say it started in March 2025 when the Knox County Board of Supervisors appointed Begley as special Knox County attorney to investigate possible breaches of courthouse security. Eric Hagan was also assigned to assist with the investigation. Hagan was looking into the hiring practices of the Knox County Sheriff's Office to figure out if deputy sheriffs were hired in accordance with state statute. Now, by early October, Hagan's presented a report to Begley indicating the hiring of Knox County deputy sheriffs was not in compliance with the law. A month later, Begley shared those results with the Knox County public defender, telling them they should begin filing motions to dismiss cases because of the hiring violations. In December, Begley allegedly posted to a local Facebook page that the sheriff's office was in violation of the statute, and as a result, all criminals have a get-out-of-jail-free card. A day later, he posted on the same Facebook page again, saying he planned to visit the Knox County Jail to let defendants know and motion for dismissals. I reached out to Begley about all of this, and he didn't deny anything he's accused of in the charges, but he defends his actions, saying in part, quote, "On Facebook, I criticized the job performance of an elected official, the Knox County Sheriff, based upon public information. He is not in compliance with a Nebraska law that requires all deputies to sign and file an oath with the county clerk," end quote. Begley denies all wrongdoing and believes he will be exonerated, calling it a personal attack by the sheriff and Knox County Attorney's office. Now, Begley faces potential sanctions, which could include disbarment. We're still looking into his allegations about the hiring practices of the Knox County Sheriff. In the newsroom, I'm Philip Katafamo, First Alert 6. Back to you.